In John's Gospel, in chapter 10, and verses 22 to 42, we hear Jesus continuing to use this metaphor or image of being the good shepherd for the sheep. And in verse 27, he says something very important. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. There are three important things in this brief verse that I'd like to highlight for you to reflect upon. First, it's that my sheep hear my voice. If you've ever seen a shepherd in action with sheep, the shepherd come to know the sound of their shepherd's voice, and they will not respond to the voice of a stranger. In fact, they may run away and go apart at a greater distance. So one of the ways that we can be identified as a genuine follower of Jesus, as a sheep of his flock, if you will, is that we hear his voice, that we are listening for the voice of Jesus as we have it in the Gospels, as we hear it in the New Testament, and we want to respond to his voice and his instructions and his commands. The second thing to note is Jesus says, I know them. A good shepherd knows his sheep. Some shepherds in ancient times used to put a notch in the ear of a sheep in a particular way with their very sharp shepherd's knife, and that particular cut or mark would identify that sheep as belonging to that particular shepherd. In our times, if you go to countries where there are still shepherds with flocks in the field, in places like Ireland or Scotland or Iceland, you'll sometimes see spray-painted sheep. You'll see sheep with some blue on them or a different color to identify them as belonging to a particular shepherd. The shepherd knows his sheep. And the third thing Jesus says is, I know them and they follow me. We are most clearly following the Good Shepherd when we can be found with him and being obedient to his commands and instructions and guidance, staying close to our Good Shepherd and following wherever he leads. So in our own lives, we want to keep these things in mind. We want to be listening for Jesus' voice. We want to stay close to him and know that he knows us and we know him. And we want to follow Jesus by living as he commands and models for us to live in all of our relationships, in our priorities, in our values. We want to clearly be identified as a sheep that belongs to the flock of Jesus.